On the 18th of July, I had a court date applying to get more visitation with my son, preferably unsupervised over the school holidays and going forward into his school term. Throughout this case, I've been treated with disrespect, with contempt, with abuse and disregard, and this court case was no different. We were never called into the courtroom, and at the end of the day we were told that the court was closed and that the date had been pushed forward to the 26th of September. So once again, my application had basically been dismissed and postponed, therefore leaving me with the short amount of time I have with my son per week. And I've done nothing to warrant this treatment. All I have done is try to protect my son, and so this treatment is totally unfair, it's totally unjust. And when I got home from the court case, I was devastated because I was so hopeful that I would receive justice, and that I can only hope that this is God's plan, and this is how he wanted things to play out. That's the only consolation I have. But when I got home from the court case, I begged God, what can I do? Because I don't believe my son is safe. I don't believe my son is abuse free, and I'm trying to do everything in my power to protect him and to help him. In the past, I have not spoken up. I have withdrawn. I have basically gone into my shell, which I deeply regret, and I will have to beg my son for forgiveness one day. So I'm finally speaking up, and I'm trusting God is behind me to protect me and protect my son and to make a move. But when I got home on the 18th of July, I was just asking God, what can I do? And I opened the Bible just randomly, and these words really spoke to me. They seemed to be relevant to my situation. And I opened the Bible on Proverbs 31:8-9, and I'd underlined previously, so it stood out. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and the needy. So I really felt that this was God's answer to my prayer, my desperate plea to ask him, what can I do? And I believe his answer was to speak up and speak out, even though I risk losing all the time I have with my son, which is an hour a week, which is not much anyway, but and being further abused and further disrespected and annihilated as a mother. But I trust God, and I trust he knows what he's doing. So on the 18th of July, I started making the videos and putting them on YouTube. I started speaking out on Facebook, and it's very scary because of the rebuttal that you get, and the judgment that you get, and the disbelief that you get, and just the abuse that you get. But I'm trusting God for once. I haven't done, I've missed so many opportunities, and I've messed up so badly from not listening to God. So I'm really trying to obey him this time, even though it's very scary. And I'm opening myself up and potentially my son to more abuse. But I trust God. He knows what he's doing. So this video is for my application to Unfiltered Stories. So it's a condensed version of what our story is. So, if you want the fuller version, you can go to the YouTube videos. But yeah, I just hope this shorter version gets published on Unfiltered Stories, and I'm asking a few other YouTubers to interview me. So we'll see what happens. So the beginning of the story started, I think it was about 10 or 11 years ago. My sister is 12 years younger than me, and she became pregnant with her boyfriend. And she first had a very late miscarriage, and then he convinced her to get back together with him and have another child. And so they had my niece. They consequently broke up again, and he got another girlfriend, and my sister got another boyfriend, and my niece would visit her father at her paternal grandfather and paternal grandmother's house, where he stayed. So this nightmare began the day I went to collect my niece at her paternal grandfather's house. And I drove her home, and when we got home, I turned around and found my niece in floods of tears. And I couldn't believe it, because I hadn't heard her crying, but she was just silently crying in the back. And when I went to try and unbuckle her seat, she put her hands over so I couldn't unbuckle her, and I asked her, "What is wrong?" And she said to me, "Granddad Jeff hurt my banjo." And I don't know if banjo is a Northern Irish word, but that was the word she used for her private area. So I immediately got a shock, and I turned to the front of the car, and I thought, oh, wow, we need to investigate this. Why would she say that her granddad Jeff hurt her banjo? So I immediately got out of the car, ran to get my sister, and she got into the car, and I said to her that my niece was very upset, and that she just told me that her granddad Jeff had hurt her banjo. So my sister's immediate reaction was to reject and deny that there was any issues. She got very upset, and she raised her voice, and she said, "There's nothing going on, there's nothing to worry about, there's nothing to investigate." And she consequently stormed out of the car and went into the house. I then picked up my niece and took my niece into the house, and my sister had been telling my parents what I had reported to them, and my parents immediately started jumping down my throat as well, saying, what happened, why, they just rejected that my niece had said anything. They'd asked me if I'd been abused, and that's why I thought this. And I merely reported to them, it was such a simple thing. I said my niece was crying. When I went to unbuckle her, she covered herself and said her granddad Jeff had hurt her banjo. They instantly rejected it. They didn't investigate with my niece. They didn't question my niece. They completely swept it under the carpet, which was a huge shock to me.